For over 40 years, attorney Chip Nix has experience in personal injury claims involving the most serious and catastrophic injuries. Helping victims injured at work, at home, or on the road is attorney Chip Nix's mission. The law offices of attorney Chip Nix is committed to representing clients with integrity and getting the compensation they deserve. This evening, attorney Chip Nix discusses the legal issues that affect you most. This is Justice for You with your host, attorney Chip Nix.
Welcome to Justice for You. Workers' compensation is designed to help pay for medical expenses and compensation for time away from work when a person is injured on the job. With me tonight is my good friend Kent Hunt to help discuss workers' compensation, its purpose, and its limitations. Kent, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me, Chip. I just appreciate you giving me an opportunity to be here in this discussion with you. I want to tell the viewers a little bit about myself, and that is that I retired from the Alabama Department of Mental Health after a 36-year career, and my last position there was the Associate Commissioner for Substance Abuse Services. And immediately following my retirement, I went to work with the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office as the Director of Pretrial Diversion Services. Now I am, though, fully retired, enjoying spending time with family and trying to help people where I can.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for having me.
And so you've had experience with the court system.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Well, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. What is workman's compensation?
Workers' compensation is a system under state law that compensates people when they get hurt on the job. For example, if you are hurt on the job, your employer is obligated by state law to pay your medical expenses that are related to the injury on the job and to pay you compensation for the time you miss from work. So workers' compensation is exactly what it says. It's to compensate people and to pay their medical expenses for injuries on the job.
Chip, are all workers covered by workman's compensation?
All workers are covered by workers' compensation, but an employer is not required to pay you unless the employer has 5 or more employees. The statute does not apply to those employers.
How would employees know if they are covered or not by workman's comp?
Well, you should be able to go into your office or the place where you work, and there should be a poster up that explains to you the fact that the employer has workers' compensation available to you, and it should explain to you how you can make a claim under workers' compensation.
As an employee, do you pay a premium for workman's compensation?
Well, there are two different, really three different ways that employers cover their workers' compensation expenses. Some of them are self-insured. If you're self-insured, you have to convince the state that you have adequate security for the payment of your workers' comp expenses. But then some employers purchase workers' compensation insurance. And if they do that, then a claims organization, just like an insurance claims organization, will handle the workers' compensation claim for the employer, and the employer simply pays a premium. Then there's a third setup or a third arrangement where employers can join what we call a fund, a workers' compensation fund, and they will pay dues to that fund, they will pay money to that fund to cover their workers' compensation expenses.
What about benefits from workman's compensation?
Well, the benefits are determined principally by the average weekly wage. If you make $1,000 a month, or if you make $400 a month, whatever that is, then there is a calculation for how much the employer owes you if you are injured on the job. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Also, the workers' comp is obligated to pay your medical expenses. And while that doesn't always happen, and while workers' comp carriers sometimes try not to pay people, their compensation, try not to pay for medical expenses. They are supposed to if the expenses are related to the workers' comp injury on the job.
Sounds like there could be a little bit of adversarial role there in regard to workman's comp benefits.
I didn't really hear your question very well, Kent, but let me just say this. Were you asking about whether or not it's an adversarial system?
Yes.
It is an adversarial system. Workers' compensation insurance adjusters know what's going on. They know the system, and they know how to deny a claim if they think that's the appropriate thing to do. They know how to pay a claim if they think that's the appropriate thing to do. But if they decide not to pay a claim, then you need a lawyer to help you obtain what you are entitled to under the law.
Okay. What about the benefits themselves? We're talking about the calculation of those. Are you going to get into that a little later on?
Yeah, we'll talk about that, but let's just say that a person has a $400 a week average weekly wage. The average weekly wage is what is paid to you in your wages, and if you have benefits, that's also lumped in there so that the value of your benefits is taken into consideration. The calculation will come up with your average weekly compensation amount, and that amount is used to pay you for what's called temporary total disability or permanent partial disability or permanent total disability. There are compensations under the statute. Thank you for watching Justice for You. It's time for a short break. We'll have more after this. Thank you. Hello, my name is Chip Nix. I'm here at the law offices of Chip Nix in Montgomery, Alabama. I want to tell you about a 20-year-old young man that we were able to help a few years ago. He lost his right hand in an industrial accident. We were able to provide a settlement for him that obtained two primary parts. The first thing we were able to do through the help of an artificial hand expert was to get him a bionic hand that really functions. And second, we were able to work with a financial company to provide, in addition to cash, $5,000 that will be paid to him on a monthly basis for the rest of his life. If you have a personal injury case, or if someone in your family has tragically been killed, call us. We will search for justice for you. Some people say personal injury law is all about the money. Well, they're right. It's about the money to provide a bionic hand to a young man who has lost one of his in an accident. It's about the money for a family who has lost a mother due to a drunk driver. Yes, for the law offices of Chip Nix, it is about the money. It's about the money to help people salvage a decent life from the wreckage of someone else's carelessness. Justice for you begins here.
For over 40 years, attorney Chip Nix has experience in personal injury claims involving the most serious and catastrophic injuries. Helping victims injured at work, at home, or on the road is attorney Chip Nix's mission. The law offices of attorney Chip Nix is committed to representing clients with integrity and getting the compensation they deserve. This evening, attorney Chip Nix discusses the legal issues that affect you most. This is Justice for You with your host, attorney Chip Nix.
Welcome back to Justice for You. Our topic this evening is workers' compensation and what it could mean for you if you are injured on the job.
Chip, I think the basic question I'd like to know the answer to is, are the benefits adequate?
Well, that's a great question, Kent. And I would have to say that the benefits are not at all adequate. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons is because of something called the $220 cap. There is a $220 cap on what a person might be able to receive if they are partially disabled. And so I'd like to talk about that. Let's look at some slides so that we can explain to the ladies and gentlemen at home what we're talking about. There are two types of disability. One type of disability is called partial disability. Permanent partial disability simply means that you have a permanent injury and that injury has not totally disabled you. What happens with that is that doctors and others will assign to a person an impairment rating, and this impairment rating is used to ascertain and determine what the percentage of disability is. And if it's a partial disability, then it is a percentage less than 100%. But if there is a total disability, that means that you have a 100% disability, and different rules apply to how much money you will be paid and how long you will be paid. Let's look at the next slide. Average weekly wage. Average weekly wage is the amount of money that a worker earns each week, including the value of benefits. So that if a person has health insurance included and is paid for by the employer, the value of those benefits is calculated into the average weekly wage. The weekly compensation amount is what the worker is paid through workers' comp, and that is calculated, generally speaking, by taking 66 2/3% of the average weekly wage and then multiplying that by the percentage of disability to get the weekly compensation amount.
I don't know, I think I got that. There's something about that just doesn't seem fair to me. Yeah, 100% disability, I understand, but then anything less than that, you're capped at $220 per week.
Right. Let's look at the next slide. Can we get that up? I put a slide in here that says stay alert because the big problem is coming up, and exactly what Kent was just talking about you're about to see. So let's see the next slide. Partial permanent disability. Partial permanent or permanent partial disability is that partial percentage of the whole body. Permanent total disability, with permanent partial disability, you're paid for only 300 weeks, and you're paid at a $220 amount max. So if your average weekly wage is $1,000, 66 2/3% of that is $666.70. You don't get that if you only have a partial disability. You get the $220. If you are permanently totally disabled, however, you get the average weekly wage for the rest of your life. Let's look at some calculations to see how that affects people. What you see here is a sample payment for permanent partial disability of 99%. So this is a person who is 99% disabled, not 100%, but 99%. The disability rating, 99%. Average weekly wage on the left is $400. Payment is for 300 weeks, less the amount of temporary total disability. So if you're injured on the job and you can't work for the first 3 months after the injury, you are paid the full amount of compensation. So you subtract that from the 300 weeks, take 66 2/3%, that $400, that's over $220. So all you get is the $220, and the present value of that settlement would be about $51,000. Look at the other example though, 99% disabled, average weekly wage of $1,000, payments for 300 weeks, less the temporary total disability paid, subtract 3 months from 300 weeks. 66 2/3% of that of the $1,000 is $666.70, but you still only get $220. That's why they call it the cap. The present value of the settlement is $51,000. So one person making $400, one person making $1,000, they both get the same amount of money under this really unfair statutory system. So the workers receive the same amount. Let's look at the next calculation. In this calculation, a person is 100% disabled, permanent total. There are two main differences. They get payments for life, not for just 300 weeks, but for life. And they get the full amount of 66 2/3% of the average weekly wage. So you take $1,000, you multiply that by 66.66, and you get $666.70. And if you were figuring the present value for a lump sum, you would look at the life expectancy of that person. You would use that life expectancy to calculate out the amount, and then you would reduce that amount to how much money it would take today to provide that amount to you in the future. And an example of a settlement like that would be what we have on the board, $473,721. So we've got a person 99% disabled who gets about $51,000. We've got a person who's 100% disabled who gets about $473,000. And the difference is only a 1% of a disability rating. It's tremendously unfair.
Chip, when was this put into law, and when was the last time it was revisited?
That's a great question. This was put into law in 1987. So the statute mandated that $220 is the maximum amount a person can receive on a weekly basis for a permanent partial disability. Well, as everybody knows that in the course of 30 years, wages have gone up, everything's gone up. The problem is the $220 has not gone up. It's the same today as it was 30 years ago. So it's very difficult for anybody, I think, to say that the system is fair at this point in time.
Okay, and the bottom line is, can anything be done to change that?
Absolutely. There's a couple of things, very interesting things that have happened. One of the things is that a circuit judge in Birmingham ruled that the $220 cap is unconstitutional. The unconstitutionality is the result of what he said was a violation of due process and equal protection, that the statute creates a class of people who are partially disabled and treats them arbitrarily and differently from the class of people who were 100% disabled. So he ruled that the 220 cap was unconstitutional. The fact that he did that means that the entire statute is unconstitutional, because the statute has a provision in it that says if any part of this act is declared unconstitutional or invalid, the whole thing will be so declared. So that's one of the things that has happened. Now that case has now been settled. That case is not proceeding along in the court system anymore. But the Alabama State Bar has appointed a task force that is there for the purpose of examining the workers' compensation law. And this task force will be making recommendations to the legislature. They are studying, as a matter of fact, I spoke to one of the members of the task force recently, and she was telling me that there are lawyers, there are judges, there are defense lawyers, there are plaintiffs' lawyers, there are legislators, there are state bar officials who are on the task force. And she indicates to me that she thinks everybody is trying to do the best they can to make sure that what comes out of their recommendations to the legislature are fair. She really encouraged me a lot. And I hope that they do come up with something that is fair.
How could we'll talk about this after, or?
Let's take a break, okay? Let's take a short break. You're watching Justice for You. We've got something coming up after this.
Hello, my name is Chip Nix. I'm here at the law offices of Chip Nix in Montgomery, Alabama. I want to tell you about a 20-year-old young man that we were able to help a few years ago. He lost his right hand in an industrial accident. We were able to provide a settlement for him that obtained two primary parts. The first thing we were able to do through the help of an artificial hand expert was to get him a bionic hand that really functions. And second, we were able to work with a financial company to provide, in addition to cash, $5,000 that will be paid to him on a monthly basis for the rest of his life. If you have a personal injury case, or if someone in your family has tragically been killed, call us. We will search for justice for you. Some people say personal injury law is all about the money. Well, they're right. It's about the money to provide a bionic hand to a young man who has lost one of his in an accident. It's about the money for a family who has lost a mother due to a drunk driver. Yes, for the law offices of Chip Nix, it is about the money. It's about the money to help people salvage a decent life from the wreckage of someone else's carelessness. Justice for you begins here.
We're back with Justice for You.
Chip, before the break, we were talking about the committees that have been formed to possibly come up with some improvements in the workman's compensation law. How could people who are out there who are interested in this topic, how could they help with making sure these improvements come about?
The best thing to do, I think for all of us, the best thing to do would be for each person to contact their legislator and to explain to the legislator how they feel about the workers' compensation law. If anyone has a question, I'd be glad to try to talk with them about it. If y'all want to call me and ask me a question or two, I'd be glad to try to do that. Another thing that I think is important is just to be aware, to stay abreast of the news and to make sure that you know when things are happening in the legislature. Hopefully there will be a report from the State Bar Task Force on what they have determined and what they will be recommending to the legislature. But there's a lot of work to be done. I think they're doing a really good job trying to get this thing right. And I'm real excited that hopefully after 30 years something will be done to make the effects of the law more fair.
But Chip, basically as it stands now though, there's still a huge discrepancy between those people who are determined to be 100% disabled and those who are determined to be less than 100% disabled.
There is a huge discrepancy. It's not equitable, it's not fair at this point in time. Let's recap real quickly what we have said. Number one, there are two basic types of disability: partial disability and permanent disability. If you are injured on the job and you have a permanent disability, even for a short time, we call that temporary total disability, then you're entitled to be paid while you're off work. If you have a partial disability or if you have a permanent disability, then you're entitled to be paid some amount of money that hopefully will replace or come close to replacing your wages. That is calculated by looking at what your average weekly wage is, and if you're totally disabled, you get that average weekly wage for the rest of your life. However, if you are only partially disabled, you take 66 2/3% of the average weekly wage and multiply it by that percentage, and if that percentage is over $220, you only get $220 a week. So there's a great discrepancy between a person who is completely disabled and a person who is only partially disabled, and that hopefully is one of the main things that the legislature will be working on to change.
Chip, I think just quickly, what's the difference between workman's compensation and Social Security disability benefits?
Social Security is something that people pay into, most people pay into for life. And Social Security disability is something that a federal judge awards to you, a magistrate type judge awards to you based upon Social Security disability principles. Workers' compensation, however, is operated pursuant to state law, the state law of Alabama. So that is it for tonight. Thank you, Kent, for being my guest tonight. Thanks for everything that you've done, and thanks to all the people who have watched. You can watch Justice for You Sunday nights after the news at 10. If you have been injured in an accident or at work, call me at 334-279-7770. Have a good night.